Hey there guys, how are you today and welcome to a brand new video on my channel. So today we are going to be reviewing my F1 Fantasy League for the Monaco Grand Prix. And yes, I know it has been quite a long time since the Monaco Grand Prix, and we're now much closer to the next Grand Prix than the Monaco Grand Prix. But I have had a few exams and everything going on. I've finished now, so I can really focus on YouTube again. So an apology for the delay in this video. But now, let's get on with it. So, just to have a recap on the Monaco Grand Prix, let's have a look at the results. So, the Monaco Grand Prix was won by Lewis Hamilton. In P2 was Sebastian Vettel. P3, Valtteri Bottas. P4, Verstappen. P5, Pierre Gasly, who also set the fastest lap. Then we have Carlos Sainz in the McLaren in P6. Kvyat 7th. Albon 8th, so a good day for Toro Rosso. Ricciardo 9th. And Grosjean in 10th. We then have Norris, Magnussen, Perez, Hülkenberg, so poor day for him, Russell, Stroll, Raikkonen, Kubica, and Giovinazzi, who amazingly was actually beaten by both Williams, and Charles Leclerc retired for Ferrari. So let's see how many points we all got. So starting in last place in my overall league here, I'm going to start actually with me. I got 619 points overall. And I got 150 for this weekend, so I had Hamilton, Gasly, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, and Norris, with McLaren as a team. So, we know Hamilton had a strong race, he won the race, which is obviously pretty good from pole position, 44 points. Gasly has finally done well for me as a turbo driver, getting 62 points, a mega score for the turbo driver. Of course, he got the fastest lap, he had some good points in the race. So, very good, but obviously if he really was driving to the potential of the car, like his teammate Verstappen is, he would be doing better for me. But I think Gasly is a pretty good driver to have as a turbo driver at the moment. Then had Ricciardo, who got a few points, was running a bit higher at the start of the race, then fell back a little bit. And then Raikkonen and Norris, who both had poor races. But McLaren, overall, as a team, got 25 points, not too bad. And I am optimistic for them for the rest of the season. And I'm glad I have them rather than Renault as my team, like I did before. Next up, we have Thomas F1. He's got 658 points overall, so I'm catching up, I think. And he got 115 points this weekend. He went for Kvyat to score points. Hamilton, Raikkonen, Leclerc, Gasly, and Toro Rosso. So we know Kvyat scored some good points. He's actually having a half decent season. I know we all called him the torpedo. I make fun of him quite a bit on this channel, just a bit. But let's be honest, he's not having a bad season by any means. I think that's a fair comment. Then Hamilton 44 points. We discussed that. Raikkonen as a turbo driver, not the best pick for this weekend, unfortunately, mate. I don't think he had the best drive. I think he had damage from the hairpin on lap 1. He had a collision, I think, with Perez in the Racing Point. I'm not sure, though. And Leclerc had a very difficult weekend because, of course, he started towards the back because of Ferrari strategic error in qualifying. And then he crashed when trying to overtake, I believe it was Nico Hülkenberg. And with the puncture, it has ruined his car. And he had to retire from the race. And Gasly, 31 points, we discussed it. And Toro Rosso, they got double points this weekend. Not a bad choice. And then we have Robbie on 680 points overall. And he got 97 points for the Grand Prix, as he went for Leclerc, Verstappen, Raikkonen, Norris, and Albon, with Red Bull as a team. So we talked about Leclerc already. Overall, a good guy to have in your fantasy team, but it didn't work out for him at his home race. He's never fit in Formula 2 or Formula 1. He's never, ever finished the Monaco Grand Prix. Let that sink in. Max Verstappen, 27 points. He had a good race. Probably could have won any other circuit. He would have won the race, you would have thought. Then Raikkonen, 5 points there. And Norris had a difficult day. But Albon, who got points in his first F1 Monaco Grand Prix in the Toro Rosso, not too bad. And Red Bull, who came home in P2 and P5, and 48 points in F1 Fantasy League. Not too bad at all. We then have Laurie on 710 points. And who did he go for? He went, and he got 194 this weekend, so I think that must be the highest. He went for Grosjean, Sainz, Kvyat, Perez, and Verstappen, with Mercedes as a team. So we know obviously having Mercedes as a team is a fantastic way to do really well in Fantasy League. We had Grosjean in there. He didn't have the best race, but he still finished in P10. Sainz had a strong race with the help of his teammate though. And we talked about Kvyat already. Perez had a difficult race, didn't really get anywhere in the Monaco Grand Prix, let's be honest. And I'm a little bit worried at Racing Point at the moment in terms of their performance. And Max Verstappen drove brilliantly all weekend and was unlucky not to win. Then have Kyle on 727 points. He went for Raikkonen, Grosjean, Kvyat, Verstappen, and Leclerc. With Red Bull as a team, he only got 102 points with his team for the Monaco Grand Prix, so maybe not the best result there. So Raikkonen as a turbo driver didn't really work this weekend. It normally does work because he normally finishes in the points, but the last couple of races have been poor for the Iceman. And Grosjean, okay, finished in P10, as we know. Kvyat did get into the points, but again, I think anyone who puts in Leclerc into their fantasy team for Monaco, it doesn't end well, and he's lost you there 14 points. Finally, we're going to go to Seb, who's way ahead still on 880 points. He scored 157 this weekend. He went for Raikkonen, Norris, Sainz, Gasly as a turbo driver, and Valtteri Bottas with a beard, and Ferrari as a team. So we haven't talked about Bottas much. So of course, Mercedes have now lost their run of consistent 1-2s, but let's be honest, it was only because of what happened in the pit lane between Verstappen and Bottas that led to Vettel going into P2 and then Bottas only being in P3. So Bottas would have finished P2 had it worked out differently, maybe had it not been a safety car. So it was unlucky without 26 points, so it's not a terrible score. Gasly did well, as we know, as a turbo driver this weekend. And it was certainly a good weekend for Carlos Sainz, but a very mixed weekend for Ferrari. Good drive for Vettel in the race, but poor day and poor weekend for the home driver, Charles Leclerc. So that was my F1 Fantasy League for the Monaco Grand Prix. Sorry it was a bit late. And I guess now I will see you guys in a week to review my F1 Fantasy League for the Canadian Grand Prix.